allopatry, and we discussed that how geographical isolation ultimately made a reproductive barrier between the species, and the new species is born accordingly. That's what we have discussed in previous class. Now we are going to discuss the next part, the speciation, that is sympatric speciation. What sympatric speciation explains? It's the evolution of new species from a single ancestor species, while both the species continue to live in the same geographical area. Okay, so what's the explanation of this sympatric species? Try to understand. Uh, Here, we do not consider the geographical isolation. That means the physical barrier between the habitats. There is no physical barrier. Okay. In this process, new species evolve from a single ancestor while inhabiting the same geographical region. That may they share the same habitat, not the different habitat. In the previous case, we have discussed that all the species which are geographically isolated, they are also their habitat also segregated from each other. Okay. But here they share the same habitat, but they belong to different species. Their origin may be same, but they belong to different species. So unlike, we can say that unlike allopatric speciation, where physical barrier like mountains, rivers separate the populations, but in sympatric speciation happens in population that are not physically separated. Okay, they share the same habitat. So this process can occur when reproductive isolation prevents the production of viable offspring. It's a key feature of this. That means no geographical barrier. Here, this is one large habitat, and this is the small group of population. This is the largest group of population, and this is a small group of population. It shows that they, this picture shows that primitively they belong to the same population group, but during course of time, some of the species, some of the population, some of the species of this population, they develop certain characteristic which made them isolated, reproductively isolated from the original population. So just look at this color in this diagram. The original population was green in color, but certain yellow color species developed in that population. That signifies that certain characteristics, certain properties of this species are different from other species. Okay. And the resultant effect is that evolution of reproductive isolation. This is completely distinct one from the original species. But they are sharing the same habitat. They are sharing the same habitat. These are the explanatory pictorial presentation. Okay. So here we can say that reproductive isolation arises due to what? Here I have explained that certain characteristics developed in some species of that population, and those characteristics are responsible for their isolation. So which kind of characteristics, what type of substances they are responsible for this reproductive isolation? That might behavioral differences, that might genetic mutations, That might temporal differences. Temporal differences means mating at different times. Some are seasonal breeder, some are all-time breeder. So these are different times. This is known as temporal differences. Ecological niche differences means certain people are using different resources from other species, other population, other groups. Okay. So these are different criteria. On the basis of those criteria, reproductive isolation arises. This is all about the sympatric speciation. Got it? All of you clear about sympatric speciation? Now, the mechanism, how sympatric speciation occurs. Uh,
Sir, I have doubt. What is the
yes,
sympatric speciation? Can
speciation
you
means
say?
formation. Speciation means formation of new species. In allopatric speciation, new species were formed, but due to geographical isolation, habitat separation. But here, habitat is same, but still new species are formed. That cause of the formation of new species is sexual selection. Sexual selection means if any behavioral change occurs in the organism. Okay, A and B, two types of organism. A have different behavior, B have different behavior. But primitively, A and B belong to the same ancestor. But behavioral pattern make them different from each other. That is the cause of sympatric speciation. They are residing in the same habitat, but they differ from each other due to their behavior, due to their mating season, due to their ecological niche, due to their genetic mutations. Now clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So here another part is there, that is sympatric and sympatry. Sympatric refers to organisms that share a range and can be found together in some places, while sympatric speciation is the process by which new species evolve from single ancestor. Okay, sympatry. The word sympatry refers what? It refers situation in which two or more populations or species live in the same geographical area and they regularly encounter one another. That is the meaning of sympatry. Okay. This is a kind of geographic overlapping process. That means organisms exhibit in the same or overlapping locations. Potential interactions are there. Since they share the same habitat, there is a potential for ecological interactions. Potential for ecological interaction for what? For competition, for predation, for mating, anything. Okay. So this means the sympatry. And sympatric speciation already we have explained. So this is all about sympatric speciation. Now, up to now, we have covered two speciation. One is allopatric speciation, another is sympatric speciation. Now come to third type speciation, that is peripatric speciation. Peripatric speciation is the type of speciation where a new species is formed from a small isolated population. that breaks off from a larger population. Okay. That means primitively the new population was the part of the larger population, but subsequently, due to different kind of environmental pressure or any other cause, the small population gets separated from the larger group of population. Okay, this is the basic idea regarding peripatric speciation. We can say it as the type of allopatric speciation. Okay, the type of allopatric speciation which occurs when small population. Just look at this diagram where I am moving my cursor. This is the larger population and this is a smaller population. This is the original population where no segregations, no differentiations are there. That means all are considered as one. But due course of time, geographical isolation occurs between the smaller group of population which are the part of the larger group previously. Okay, that's why for this purpose, this is considered as the type of allopatric speciation. Okay, but what is the special characteristic? Why it is considered as the another speciation from or different speciation from allopatric speciation? Now we are going to discuss. So here, because the isolated group is small and possibly subject to different environmental pressure, it can evolve rapidly and from a new species. Okay. We can say here the Darwin's finches also the good example for this. A few birds from a mainland population colonize a remote island, and after some time, they become the new species there. Okay, that is the example of this peripatric speciation. So what are the key features of this peripatric speciation? What are the explanation of this peripatric speciation? The small peripheral population breaks off from the main population. Okay. This is the larger population. The peripheral population breaks from the main population. And which are isolated, which breaks from the main population, they geographically isolated, and that leads to formation of new group. That leads to formation of new group. The second important thing is that yesterday's class just remind this. I'm explained about the gene flow. If genetic changes or genetic exchange occurs between two population, it is known as gene flow. If gene flow is continuing, then population have relationship with each other. But if gene flow is not there, then the next population is considered as a different population from the previous one. Okay, what happens in this case? This is the original population. Let's say this group of population is separated from the original population. I'm explaining the mechanism. Okay. For some time, if gene flow occurs means the population of small group can come to the larger group, or the populations of larger group can move to the smaller one, and exchange occurs between them. Gene exchange occurs between them by the process of sexual mating. Then we can say that these two populations are not different from each other. But if the distance is so far, at a single time they move to a place which is far distance from the original population range, and that distance do not allow the species of the small group or the larger group to interact with each other. That is the region for stopping the gene flow, or we can say that there is no gene flow between these two species or population species. Hence, it is considered as a new species. So here you can see the change in the color. Change in the color explains about the formation of new species, which is called as speciation. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Now, just in a brief, we'll discuss about the difference between allopatric and peripatric speciation. So many examples you can cite in peripatric speciation. Darwin's finches is best example. You can cite also in case of allopatric speciation. You can cite in case of peripatric speciation also. So the basic difference between allopatric and peripatric speciation is that in allopatric speciation, speciation occurs due to geographic separation of population. But in peripatric speciation, speciation in a small population isolated at the periphery. Take one example. If the mainland was there, let's say this is the mainland. If cracks occur between the mainland due to earthquake and this mainland is getting separated, completely geographically separated from each other, so there is chance of species variation. They unable to interact in the next generation level. That is the region for allopatric speciation. But here in peripatric speciation, if the population does not follow the rule of habitat separation due to any factor, due to predation, due to resource difficulties or any other factor, they move from the main to another part, main population group to another part, and they colonize there. They do not want to move back to the original population, and they develop certain properties, certain characteristics which are different from the original population. That is the cause of peripatric speciation. So many other differences also we can cite between allopatric speciation and peripatric speciation. That is, allopatric speciation can be large or small, but always the peripatric speciation is small. Allopatric speciation completes physical barrier, but in peripatric speciation, small group become isolated at the edge of larger range. Okay, so these are important concepts. Then another one important factor for peripatric speciation is founder effect. Just a minute. Okay. So what is that founder effect? Founder effect means the few survivors of the peripatric speciation may carry rare genes that cause slight variations in the population. That means what happened in what happened in peripatric speciation is the example or is the explanation of this founder effect. There are two concepts. One is called as bottleneck effect, another is called as founder effect. In bottleneck effect, certain species they survive. In founder effect, also certain species survive, but differences are there. Okay. Founder effect and bottleneck effect are not in detail in your course, but I'm trying to discuss it in a very brief manner for your understanding. Okay, so founder effect generally it occurs when a new population is started by small number of individuals. They are called as founders. Okay, when new populations started by small number of individuals, they are known as founders. Uh, we can take some key features of founder effect that occurs during colonization of new areas. These things, colonization of new areas from the original population. It involves small founding populations. Rare alleles in the population may become the new one. So this is the case. We can take examples of founder effect. These examples you also can cite in peripatric speciation also. Have you heard about Amish population? The Pennsylvania Amish population. They're a descendant from a small group of founders. The rare genetic disorder causing dwarfism and extra fingers, polydactylity nature due to founder carrying the gene. That means the population have an extra finger at their hands, on their hand. Okay. And that group is separated, that group is isolated for that particular characteristic. That effect is known as founder effect. Okay. Let's take the example in this figure. If the population of Pennsylvania is considered as the green color population, the single population, the original population, but some of the populations, they separated, they are rejected, they are thrown by the original group, or the original group developed hatred to the next group, which have certain special characteristics. Special characteristics means the rare characteristics which is not generally found in the original population, that is either dwarfism or extra finger, presence of extra finger. That characteristic make the population to be separated from the original population. And if the new population group having the rare characteristic, they do not come to the original population group, they are considered as different population. Okay. If sexual intercourse not occur between them, that is the effect, founder effect. Then the next one is bottleneck effect. Bottleneck effect happens. Here bottleneck effect is not applicable. But if I am explaining about the founder effect, then it is best to explain about the bottleneck effect. Both are the part of genetic drift. So this bottleneck effect happens when large population is suddenly reduce its size due to natural disaster, due to disease, due to human activities. Okay. And surviving population has different genetic makeup. So these are coming under the bottleneck effect. This is not detailed explanation is not required. Okay. So founder effect is the explanation for this peripatric speciation. Peripatric speciation means it's a type of allopatric speciation, but not due to geographical isolation. Organisms themselves, they want to move to different habitats. But in allopatric speciation, natural effect cause the isolation, geographic isolation, which leads to reproductive isolation. This is the concept of peripatric speciation. If any confusion, then you can ask me about peripatric speciation.
Sir, the diagrammatic so representation right side A time,
Yes.
B time. A time I am clear, but B time the original population is changes in new species that is green mark and the blue mark is how green is changed into blue. Blue how it is happen? I have little bit doubt. Can you say, sir?
Yes. The blue color is the representation of different species. If the original population develops a certain characteristic, let's take the example. This is the original population. Okay. If the original population is facing any kind of environmental stress, environmental pressure, then that lead to what? That lead that might lead to mutation, that might lead to different type of variation in the species. Okay. So in that context, if we consider that some of the species from the original population, they move to different area where the stress is not affecting the population, they become the original one. That's why they maintain their color blue. But the place where most of the population are residing, they are facing environmental stress. That means they develop certain new characteristics within them to accommodate, to adjust, to develop their adaptability towards the environment. That's why they change to next color. That means they develop certain properties. Okay.
So what is the difference between first A time and B time? The diagrammatical representation.
It,
What is the difference between two?
it's a it's the diagram is just explanation of different type of peripatric speciation. That means one case in A type, the peripatric speciation, the new group is formed due to small group separation and the small group is converted to new group. But in the second type, new group is formed, but small group is not converted to new group. The large group, the original group is converted to new group. Okay, but speciation is there. Differences are there. Got it?
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now come to parapatric speciation. Next round is parapatric speciation. So Parapatric speciation is a type of speciation where two subpopulation of a species evolve reproductive isolation where still exchanging genes. This is another interesting concept. This speciation occurs when populations are geographically adjacent. That means, look at this map. This is one population, this is another population. Okay. This population and this population, they are geographically adjacent populations. And if though they are geographically adjacent, they experience limited gene flow. Limited gene flow means some of the population, they might interact with this group of population. That is known as limited gene flow. But still, diverge into distinct species due to environmental gradients or selective pressure. They diverge into distinct groups. That's why they are considered as two different populations. Got it? Here, the food availability, the environmental condition, the atmospheric condition, and here all these conditions are not same. That's why they are considered as two population group. But here, where they experience their boundary, they may experience limited gene flow due to certain similarities. So this population are not completely isolated, but individuals tend to meet more often with nearby neighbors than with individuals from the far end of the range. That is the concept of these things. Okay. So here some characteristics of parapatric speciation are mentioned below. What are those characteristics? Those characteristics are isolation. First is isolation means parapatric speciation occurs when a population is isolated, usually at the edge of the larger group by extreme change in habitat. Okay, that means there is a complete separation. Isolation means no one is interacting with other. Gene flow, already we have discussed, that may continue between two populations during the speciation process. Then hybrid zone, this zone, yellow mark zone, just look at here. This zone is the hybrid zone. Hybrid zone means that may be observed at the interface between the two populations where they experience limited gene flow. Then reproductive isolation is temporal or behavioral rather than geographic. So certain descriptive features are adjacent population, no complete barrier but limited contact. That means some of the population, they come in contact with other population group. Gene flow is reduced but not absent. Different environmental condition leads to divergent selection. Take one example. You can understand it better in a better manner. So, if we take the example of the grass species, that grows across both contaminated. Contaminated means particularly you can say that heavy metal contamination. The grass species, the name not remembered properly, but the species is tenuis, agros tenuis or like that, whatever may be. That's a grass species. Okay. The grass species grows across both contaminated or polluted soil near mines and normal soil nearby. Let's take the example here. If this is the original population, the original population is separated due to different human interactions. Different human interaction means the industrialization develops heavy metal pollution at this level, at this soil area. Okay. And the group at the right side, they experience heavy metal, they intake heavy metals because the soil was polluted. But the previous one, they grow in heavy metal free soil. Okay, that is the explanation. That means now for their behavior, for their growth pattern, they are considered as two different species group, because some of them are growing in heavy metal polluted area and some of them are growing in free contamination less soil area. But still, due to the open barrier means some of the species, they have access to come to the next group, but not much more distance from this boundary. This boundary is considered as the hybrid zone, in which both the species group, they come in contact with each other for mating or for different interactions. And due course of time, those from clean soil do poorly in polluted areas and vice versa, because they did not experience any kind of environmental stress. That's why they do not develop any kind of resistance mechanism against against pollution, against the heavy metal. But those which are residing in the heavy metal contaminated soil, they can grow in that area. Also, they can grow in normal soil area because they developed resistance. That development of resistance, this yellow color marks what? The development of resistance. But the green color is the original population that do not develop any kind of resistance. Okay. So if gene flow occurs between these two, gene flow means at the boundary, some of the species come this area and some of the species come to this area. They, if they interact with each other, if sexual intercourse occurs between these two, that develops a hybrid zone. Those species can adapt to both the areas. Okay, that kind of speciation is known as parapatric speciation. Now got the parapatric speciation.
Sir, I can say
Yes,
about
sir.
parapatric only.
That parapatric means two species populations, but these are earlierly not considered as two species population. They are earlierly considered as one population group. But due course of time, due to different environmental stress, environmental pressure, they segregated from each other. Some of them develop different properties. In all these three, in all the previous three population, sorry, speciation, nowhere you found that there is a hybrid zone. That means the group is separated, that is completely separated from the original group. But here, why it is different? though they are separated, but still they exchange their gene at a limited manner at the hybrid zone. That is the basic explanation of this parapatric speciation. Now clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Then come to factors responsible for speciation. Already we have discussed here. This is the beautiful pictorial presentation of the speciation. If any kind of physical barrier occurs, which is known as the first concept is geographical isolation. If landmass is separated due to the river, presence of water flow, then that is the cause of this geographical isolation. Two species population, they are completely separated from each other. Okay. And second thing is reproductively isolation. Reproductively isolation means mechanisms that prevent interbreeding between diverging populations. These two populations, they unable to interbreed, though they can interbreed, but they unable to interbreed with each other due to presence of this physical barrier. So geographical barrier and reproductive barrier both combinedly called or responsible for speciation, formation of new species. Okay, this reproductive barrier can be distinguished into pre-zygotic barrier and post-zygotic barrier. Pre-zygotic barrier means prevent mating or fertilization. Already I have explained about temporal isolation. If these are two populations having same characteristic earlier, but due to this separation, some of them in the new environment, they develop the reproductive season in a different time from the original population. For that, they unable to reproduce with each other. If the organisms are seasonal breeder, they unable to reproduce with each other. That is considered as pre-zygotic barrier. That means production of zygote is responsible on the combination of sperm and ovum. If you take one male from this group and one female from this group, one male from this group, one female from this group, and they are subjected to mate, but they unable to produce progeny because one having mating season, but another do not have the mating season that time due to this barrier. That concept is known as pre-zygotic reproductive isolation. And post-zygotic isolation is what? It is the reduced viability or reproductive success of offspring. Post-zygotic barrier explains the hybrid sterility. Hybrid sterility means it's a type of reproductive isolation occurs after fertilization. That means one sperm and one ovum or gametes from male and female from different parent. They fuse to form the zygote, but prevent the resulting zygote from developing into fertile viable adult. That means the zygote unable to develop into viable adult, which can produce its own next progeny. Okay, if that thing happen, then the organism does not survive and cannot reproduce. That kind of isolation is known as post-zygotic isolation. This is sometimes called as hybrid sterility because hybrid survives, but it is infertile. We can take the example of mule. It's a post-zygotic isolation. Mule means it's a combination of horse and donkey. Horse is another species, donkey is another species. Naturally, they do not go for interbreeding. But if artificially we enforce them for the process of interbreeding, they can produce the next progeny. They can produce the zygote, and the zygote develop to the new organism, that is mule. But mule is not considered as true species, because the true species means the species can survive and species can reproduce its next generation. That is the meaning of true species. But in case of mule, it unable to produce its next generation due to its hybrid sterility. Mule is a hybrid, but it develops its sterility. Okay. So these are two important reproductive isolation. Any confusion?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Then some ecological factors also responsible. Divergence in habitat use, feeding strategies, need specialization, which means ecological area, can lead to also speciation, particularly in sympatric and parapatric scenario. Genetic drift, already I have explained the founder effect and bottleneck effect. Here the picture of bottleneck effect is there. From a bottle, if some of the bulbs, some of the particles, they are selected, that is the founder, sorry, bottleneck effect. But due to movement of small group to next area, and they become the new population, that is the founder effect. So both combinedly called as genetic drift, which is also responsible for formation of new species. Development of new characteristic within them is responsible for formation of new species. Okay, this is one cause. Another cause is mutation. All we know that mutation means sudden change in genetic property. New mutations introduce genetic variations, and some mutation can drive divergence by conferring advantage in specific environmental conditions. Okay, so these are some important factors responsible for the process of speciation. And the last part, natural selection, is also responsible for the speciation. Why? If we consider about sexual selection, that means the mating preference is there in a group. Let's consider a group of peahens and peacocks. Particularly, a kind of male is selected by all the female, but rest males are not selected by the females. So it is the property of that particular male is the region for formation of that kind of species only, that leads to the formation of new characteristic bearing species. That is the cause of natural, that is due to natural selection. If we take, let's try to discuss about certain things about sexual selection. What does it mean? Sexual selection is a special type of natural selection. Natural selection means if the organism is fit, the fittest one will be selected. Fittest one means having certain improvised characteristics, having certain characteristics which can develop adaptability within the organism for their survivability. Okay, so natural selection is the process for speciation because the species, in case of Biston Betularia industrialization, we have discussed the species which can develop camouflage property that can be selected. Natural selection, another example, we can also take the DDT resistance in mosquito. From the same group of mosquito, some develop DDT resistance, not all. That's why those groups only selected by nature, which are separated from the original group, because original group is the mix of all the group. But new group is the single category group, which develop DDT resistance. Okay, like that manner, sexual selection also is a special type of natural selection where individuals with traits that increase their chance of mating are more likely to pass on their genes. Okay, so this all about natural selection. Polyploidy also another important cause, the rapid mode of speciation, particularly in plants. Polyploidy it's a condition in which organism has more than two complete set of chromosomes. Generally, it is not found in case of animals. Animal unable to survive in that condition. That's why it is mostly found in case of plants. It's a common type of concept in case of plants. And it's a powerful drive of speciation. We have 46 number of chromosome or 23 pair of chromosome, but it is considered as a set of chromosome. But if suddenly the set of chromosome is getting doubled, 46 into 2, then we are unable to survive. If we survive, then that is the formation of new species, which is not generally possible in case of human. But in some plant species, it is possible. And for that species, we can say it as it's a type of driving force for the purpose of speciation, polyploidy. Okay. So up to this, all of you clear? Now we'll go
Yes,
for the tempo of evolution. Tempo of evolution refers to what? It refers to the rate at which evolutionary changes occurs over time. If evolutionary changes occurs over time in a gradual manner, how it helpful for the organism? It helps explain how species evolve, adapt, or become extinct. Okay, that means if the organism is gradually evolved from one form to another, then we can make a proper phylogenetic tree and we can understand a proper manner of evolution one after another. What is the cause of evolution, how organisms survive, and what are the cause of extinction, why organism unable to survive at that time. For example, the extinction of dinosaurs. We all know that so many regions are responsible for extinction of dinosaurs. Catastrophe is one of the region. Resources shortage is another region. Increasing temperature or fluctuation in temperature is another region for dinosaur survivability. Large body size is region for the survivability. Okay, so this idea can come from this process, gradual evolution process. That is the tempo of evolution. Okay, understanding the tempo of evolution provide insights into the pattern of evolutionary changes in organism. Got it? So now we'll discuss it in detail. So what is the key concept of this tempo of evolution? It is divided into gradualism and punctuated equilibrium. This gradualism concept or phyletic gradualism, already otherly known as phyletic gradualism, this concept explains the Darwinian model of evolution. What Darwinian model of evolution? So the evolution occurs slowly and steadily through the gradual accumulation of small genetic changes over long periods of time. So this gradual change occur in which manner? That small changes accumulate over long period of time. It's a continuous evolution and is driven by natural selection. Mutation, genetic drift, all these things are responsible. We can take the example that evolution of horse species is a best example of gradual evolution. It occurs or it takes over millions of years for the changing of size, tooth structure, limb length, everything. Okay. Then the next page is the punctuated equilibrium. It's introduced by Stephen in 1972. And this theory suggests what? It suggests that species remain in a state of relative stasis, which is little change for long period and interrupted by short rapid bursts of significant evolutionary change. Evolution occur in fits and starts rather than through constant gradual change. If we discuss it in simple manner, the punctuated equilibrium, we can take the example of fossil records of some mollusks. Okay. So the evolution of trilobites, so long period of stasis, species remain relatively unchanged or morphologically stable for long geographical period. Change occurs there, but that change is very slow change. Got it? Evolutionary change occurs relatively in slow manner, usually associated with speciation events. Okay, so these all are different tempo of evolution. These are the diagrammatic presentation of this tempo of evolution, gradualism and punctuated equilibrium. Here in gradualism concept, mode of evolution in which gradual changes occur over long period of time. But in another case, punctuated equilibrium explains what? The period of rapid change in species are separated by period of little or no change. Okay. So here the example of gradual evolution, horse, how unguligrades, pentigrades, all these type of their teeth, their limb structure, their height, they gradually change over generations. But in some species like trilobites, like mollusk, they do not affected by environmental pressure. They do not affected by any kind of environmental pressure, or the environmental pressure is not sufficient for their change for a long period of time. That is the tempo of evolution. That is the difference between these two. If any confusion, then you can ask me.
No, sir.
Then factors which influence the tempo of evolution. First, we can take examples of environmental changes like rapid environmental change, including volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, can trigger punctuated equilibrium. Okay. But slow changes like continental drift, climate change, it's not a faster process, it's a slowest process that leads to gradualism. So
Sir, the
environmental,
tempo word is for temperature or what?
what?
Tempo word, is it for temperature changes due to, or simply a name? No. Meaning of
Uh,
tempo. Why this is tempo
tempo
evolution?
means
Yes.
it's a rate of, actually not temperature change, it's a rate of speed of evolutionary change. Here tempo means it's a rate of change speed and how evolution occurs, in which manner evolution occurs, whether it occurs in a gradual manner in a slower process or it occurs in a faster rate. That is the tempo. We can distinguish tempo in two manners. One is fast tempo, one can be slow tempo. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then genetic and developmental factors also responsible for this tempo of evolution. Developmental constraints, change in regulatory genes can lead to significant, one gene is explained, mentioned here, but so many factors are responsible. Rate of mutations, higher rate mutation can accelerate evolution, but if the mutation persists, higher rate mutation, generally the animals they unable to survive in higher rate of mutation because frequent change cannot be adapted by the animal species. Larger group of animal, particularly I am talking about the larger group of animals. In small group, they change, they can adapt the frequent change. The bacteria, the mosquito species, I have already cited the examples of mosquito species. In the in case of bacteria, the antibiotic resistance. Okay, population size is another cause. Small population can undergo rapid evolutionary changes due to genetic drift or bottleneck effect that leads to accelerated evolution. But large population may exhibit more gradual evolution in comparison to small one. Speciation like allopatric, sympatric, all this kind of speciation, allopatric due to geographical isolation. Okay, they follow punctuated pattern of isolated population that evolve rapidly to new conditions. but sympatric speciation may follow the gradual pattern. This is just a picture of continental drift, the how the geographical isolation occurs. Primitively, or mass was considered as only a single land mass, but Tethys Sea, Tethys Ocean, and all other formation of different landmass area due to different geographical processes, tectonic plate, volcano. So all these things are the explanation of this continental drift. Now come to the evidence supporting tempo of evolution theories, fossil record, molecular clock studies, experimental evolution, fossil record. We can take, for example, of gradual changes, that fossil sequences showing slow changes over time, like your horse evolution, punctuated changes, sudden appearance of new species without intermediate form. Okay. Molecular clock can show both gradual divergence in long-lived lineage or rapid changes. Experimental evolutions with bacteria like E. coli demonstrate both gradual adaptation and rapid shift. So these all are certain evidence of this tempo of evolution. These are certain pictorial presentations, not important. Then come to significance of this tempo of evolution. Understanding the tempo of evolution helps in deciphering the rate of species diversification. That means how organisms respond to environmental stresses and opportunities. Whether organism able to adopt, fit. The nature of adaptive radiation, rapid speciation and adaptation following a new ecological opportunity. Certain controversies are also there. Debate exists on which model predominates. However, both gradualism and punctuated evolution are seen as important, and both may occur at different times or in different lineage. Evolution is only the hypothesis. We don't have any clear-cut proof regarding this. We only can hypothesize that this might happen. Okay, so which one is the earlier agent, which one is the latter agent? Clear-cut idea, sometimes it is very difficult to get. That creates certain controversies. This all about this part. Okay. So we have less time. We have to cover next two slides. That's why I'm moving to next part. The next part of this unit is taxonomy and biodiversity. The taxonomic arrangement. Taxonomy is the science of classifying things based on shared characteristics. Okay, shared characteristics, groups. The groups are called as taxa. Okay, this taxonomy come from the Greek word taxis. Taxis means the arrangement of divisions. Okay, nomos means the law. By following which kind of law and rules, regulations we can make or segregate them in different groups. Biological taxonomy is used to classify organisms into groups. Carolus Linnaeus, the Swedish botanist, is considered the founder of this modern taxonomy, father of taxonomy. Okay, He developed Linnaean system, which use these are all history regarding taxonomy. Briefly, I have cited here. These are different types of taxonomy: alpha taxonomy, beta taxonomy, gamma taxonomy. Okay. So first of all, alpha taxonomy explains what it is: the initial and basic phase of taxonomy that deals with identification. Whatever written here, I'm just explaining what is the meaning of that alpha taxonomy. So it's the initial or basic phase of taxonomy that deals with identification, description, and naming of species based on morphological characteristics. So what is that morphological characteristic? How we identify, how we classify the structures in the form of alpha taxonomy? First of all, we have to identify. Identification is the first process. Recognizing the distinguishing organism, then description, that means detailing of the observable characteristic, then nomenclature, means assessing the scientific names. These are basic properties. Okay. Then come to beta taxonomy, concerned with arranging species into hierarchical system of classification, considering evolutionary relationship. It focus on sorting and grouping species. Okay. Gamma taxonomy includes or it deals with study of evolutionary process and intraspecific variations, which include the examination of phylogenetic relationship using genetic, molecular, and advanced morphological data. These are categories of taxonomy, different types of taxonomy. These are important taxonomy. Alpha, beta, and gamma taxonomy are important taxonomies. You have to remember. Then come to taxonomic diversity. In species level, in genetic level, phylogenetic level, functional level, we got, or we can classify different type of taxonomic diversity. In species level, variety of species within a particular region or ecosystem, they comes under the species diversity level. In genetic diversity, variation within the species, all you know that genetic arrangement within the species. Okay. Phylogenetic diversity is considers the evolutionary relationship between the species. That means which species arise from which one. What is the ancestral species? Okay. Higher phylogenetic diversity indicates a broad evolutionary history represented by group of species. Functional diversity also refers to the diversity of functional traits. That means different behavioral pattern, reproductive strategies within ecosystem. Okay, so these are the taxonomic diversity. These are certain pictorial presentation of genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecological diversity. How ecosystems differs, how genetically modified food, how species are different from each other. Okay. Any confusion regarding these
No,
types
sir.
of diversity? Okay. Then you come to origination and extinction. That means in the previous one, how the species evolve, or what is the typical mechanism for the evolution of species, like speciation, genetic drift, all are responsible for evolution of species. All are responsible for formation of new species, origin of species due to these factors due to genetic drift, natural selection, speciation, environmental change. Extinction is the permanent loss of the species. Particularly, it results from environmental change, competitions. These are driving force for the extinction. If organism unable to adapt itself, organism unable to fight, then they go to the case of extinction. And rate of change in origination, it measures the number of new species that evolve over specific time period, which is influenced by mutation rate, drive, reproductive isolation, environmental opportunities. Then extinction rate, which refers to number of species that go extinct over a specific time period. Just these definitions you have to remember. Then extinction can be due to any cause, natural cause, artificial or man-made cause, or mass extinction, that rapid loss of species due to catastrophic events. Okay, I have before some time I have cited the example of extinction of dinosaurs, catastrophic events. Then come to the causes of extinction. What are the important causes of extinction? So many causes are there. I have cited some important causes. In the first, we're going to discuss about the natural causes of extinction. Natural causes like climate change, sea level rise, volcanic activity. If suddenly sea level rise occurs, suddenly means within 2 to 3 years, within 10 years, within 100 years, if sea level rise occurs, then the terrestrial organism, they're unable to get sufficient habitat space for their survivability. That leads to their extinction. Biological factors like predation, disease, competitions, habitat destructions, all are also responsible for natural. Uh, these are considered as the natural causes for the extinction. And very importantly, natural causes is responsible for extinction, but nowadays the extinction of many organisms is due to anthropogenic cause, man-made cause. Why restriction? Why extinction occurs? First of all, if we go for the encroachment of human habitat, that leads to loss or destruction of their habitat, destruction of organismal habitat, deforestation, urbanization, all are the responsible factors for habitat destruction. Overexploitation, like hunting, fishing, all are also responsible. Pollution, climatic change. Climatic change include global warming, ocean acidification, and invasive species also responsible for this kind of extinction. So these are certain pictorial presentations of extinction, both man-made as well as natural cause. Then come to differential rate of diversification. Ecological opportunity, key innovations, geographical isolation, co-evolution, environmental stability. So what actually the differential rate of diversification? It refers to the variation in the rate at which different group of organisms evolve new species. That is actually the meaning of differential rate of diversification. Okay, and these are the causes of this diversification. Again, I am repeating, what is differential rate of diversification? It is the rate of variation, or the variation in the rate at which different group of organisms evolve new species or go extinct over time. Either they converted to new species by developing certain characteristic from different characteristics, or they completely extinct by the process. Okay, so these are some key aspects of this differential rate of diversification. Ecological opportunity, it explains access to new resources or environment can promote rapid speciation. If adaptability is developed by the organism, then only they can survive. Here, one thing that mentioned here, adaptive radiation. What does it mean? Adaptive radiation means is the rapid evolution of many diverse species from a common ancestor. Typically, when organisms colonize new environments or ecological niche. At that time, either organism by different type of habitat suitability, by different type of adaptability mechanism, organism either change to new group, or they develop new characteristic within them, or they become extinct. Okay, which may also lead to the process of mass extinction. Key innovation explains the evolution of novel traits like flight in birds, flight adaptation, flowers in plants can open new ecological niche and promote diversification. That means new needs generated due to new pressure, or new characteristics developed due to new needs. That is the concept. Geographical isolation is another cause. The physical barrier which separate population can result in reproductive isolation, which lead to speciation. Co-evolution. Co-evolution means interaction between species, such as predator-prey dynamics. Okay, the literal meaning of co-evolution, it's actually the mathematical operation. But if we consider the species of a single habitat, prey is there, predator is there. Both want to change themselves according to the environmental condition, environmental stress. So there is an interaction between these two species. If predator prey dynamics are there, that is the responsible cause for maintenance or destruction of the food chain, food web concept in that habitat. Okay, which may lead to diversification. If food adaptability, food preference is different, become different, then organism develop certain new properties. The food which was earlier available, if not available at a particular fixed particular time, then that lead to evolution of the species or extinction of the species. Okay. Environmental stability is also another reason. Stable environments may allow species to persist for longer periods, while fluctuating environments can promote extinction of rapid diversification. Then these are the current status and feature of biodiversity, that we are in the direction of sixth mass extinction. Already we have experienced how five mass extinctions. Many scientists believe that we are undergoing a human-induced mass extinction. The sixth mass extinction is due to human activities, anthropogenic activities. Okay, like that anthropogenic activity is responsible for rapid climate change due to pollution and overexploitation. So biodiversity is declining at unprecedented rates, with many species on the brink of extinction due to man-made activities, due to different kind of anthropogenic activities. Conservation efforts explains what? International efforts such as protected areas, conservation laws, biodiversity actions plan, everything. They aim to curb biodiversity loss, to check and conservation of biological diversity. Convention on biological diversity, other agreements strive for global cooperation. Okay. Excuse me. So, what is that Convention of Biological Diversity? It's an international treaty adopted by Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, 1992. What it actually aims to promote sustainable development through the conservation and responsible use for biological diversity. So these are certain conservation efforts to stop biodiversity loss, to make awareness among the people, to stop anthropogenic activities, such kind of anthropogenic activity which are responsible for loss of biodiversity. Some future outlook, that predictions suggest continued biodiversity loss unless drastic conservation measures are taken. Okay, the future of biodiversity actually depends on addressing the climate change. Not only the climate change, but habitat preservation and sustainable resource use also important parts of this. Advances in genetic technologies, rewilding effort, restoration ecology. So these are also very important phenomenon to restore biodiversity in certain regions. So these are certain conservation techniques: in situ conservation, conservation of wild animals diversity in their own habitat. Ex situ conservation include the conservation in different habitat. Different habitat means particularly in man-made habitat like zoological park, botanical gardens, so forth. So this habitat is created by human being. And the last part, we are going to discuss about the human evolution. So many theories are there. that this is the origin of human. Human belongs to the family Hominidae. Hominidae family means the great ape family, diverging from the common ancestors with chimpanzees and around 6 to 7 million years ago. In previous class, we have discussed about the phylogenetic tree. This analysis of phylogenetic tree explained this point that diversification from the common ancestor with chimpanzees around 6 to 7 million years ago. So, human evolution is the long term process, it's not the short term process through which modern humans, the Homo sapiens sapiens, is a trinomial nomenclature, evolved from primate ancestors, which involve biological, behavioral, and cultural changes over millions of years. Okay. So early hominins, these are the key genera, including the Sahelanthropus, Australopithecus, and Homo. These are the basic key, some important genes. Early hominins showed increasing bipedalism. That's why this early hominin got its important. Before that, bipedalism characteristic was not observed, but early hominin they developed bipedalism characteristics. Just look at here. These organisms they don't have bipedalism characteristic, but when they try to move, they try to locomote by the two limbs. This is the bipedalism nature. Early hominins they show this bipedalism nature, not perfect bipedalism nature, but they tried to move in bipedal manner. Okay. Then out of Africa theory explains that modern human beings are believed to have originated in Africa about
Please mute anyone's mic is on.
mute your voice. It's disturbing others. It's 2000, 200, 2 lakh years ago and dispersed across the globe. Neanderthalis and Denisovans. These are close relative of humans lived in Eurasia, Europe and Asia with modern human interbreeding with them. Genetic evidence shows that non-African human population have small percentage of Neanderthal and Denisovans. Actually, human evolved from early primates. 15 million years ago, the Drapithecus and Ramapithecus, they're considered as early primates, primitive primates. They existed resembling modern gorillas and chimpanzees. About 3 to 4 million years ago, man-like primate roamed Eastern Africa, possibly the theory from the Africa explained this one. It's a very recent evolutionary advancement that about 3 to 4 million years ago, man-like primates roamed Eastern Africa. Then around 2 million years ago, Australopithecus inhabited East African grassland. The basic properties mentioned in the bold letter, colorful letter, just look at here. They use stone tools for hunting, the Australopithecus. They lived 4 to 2 million years ago, bipedal, but still have some tree climbing traits. They were bipedal in nature, but still they have some tree climbing trait. Then Homo erectus. These are the part of genus Homo, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, first tool users. Homo erectus, Homo habilis are the first tool user. Before that, they are unable to use any kind of tools. Tools means made up of stones, made up of different metals. These are the tools. Okay. So Homo erectus, Homo habilis, the first human-like hominid, emerged with a brain having capacity 650 to 800 cubic centimeter. Then Homo erectus, they appeared around 1.5 million years ago with a large brain size having 900 cc, likely being a meat eater, Homo erectus. Then Neanderthalis, they lived in near East and Central Asia between 1 lakh to 40,000 years ago with brain size, developed brain size 1400 cc. Okay, just look at the trend, how the brain size is increasing due course of evolution. It's not a speed process, it's not a immediate process. Gradually, the brain size is increasing. Then Homo sapiens, they originated in Africa and migrated across continents, developing into distinct races. Modern Homo sapiens, they emerged during Ice Age. Around the time period is around 75,000 to 10,000 years ago. Okay. And this is very important. The last point, the agriculture began approximately 10,000 years ago. That is the great achievement of this human evolution. That's why human is considered as the best organism having more reasoning power. The only organism having reasoning power. They can analyze the thing in a proper way in comparison to other organisms. So this is the tree of human evolution, how it plays the human races in tree in different branches. First, classification of different races, like different class Mammalia, class primates, then family Hominidae, genus Homo. Okay, so these are different classes, different classification pattern. Great apes that humans share a common ancestor with other great apes like Pan, Gorilla, Pango. From the analysis, we made a conclusion that these are the common ancestors. Then primate characteristic, opposable thumbs, large brain relative to body size. So these are certain characteristic by observing these characteristic, we can categorize different organisms, different animals. Okay, then only we can made a conclusion that this organism is the recent ancestor of the human being. Okay, molecular data, DNA, mitochondrial DNA analysis, nuclear genes also help in providing more information regarding this phylogeny analysis. Okay. So genomics and human genome, comparative genomics, genetic adaptation, epigenetics. There is a recent researches focus on how epigenetic changes that include what? Epigenetic changes, heritable changes, which not involving to DNA sequence. So these are certain characteristics we can incorporate information of this phylogenetic tree, and from that we got a clear-cut idea about their ancestry. These are the current issues in human evolution. Fossil discoveries, the new hominin fossils have been discovered, leading to re-evaluation of human evolutionary pathways. These actually raise a question about complexity of human evolution and coexistence of multiple hominin species. Hybridization, modern genomic research show that ancient human interbred with Neanderthalis, Denisovans. So this hybridization had implication for understanding human genetic diversity. Cultural evolution include tool use, social learning, language, symbolic thought. They played a major role in shaping human behavior, climate and evolution. So this climate changes over millennia means million years have been critical in shaping human evolution, influencing migration patterns. Okay. Technological advances like ancient DNA analysis, radiometric dating, all these continue to provide new strategies. Okay. So all these things about human evolution. If any question, you can ask me.
Sir, can you please share your number so that we can ask you any question if we have further any doubt after the classes?
I have shared it from the very beginning. Okay, just write it. My number 82800
Yes, sir.
39012.
3901.
Eight
Okay, sir.
two eight double zero 39012.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Then I'm
Sir,
going to stop
hybridization
here.
point again can
Which one?
say
Hybridization.
hybridization point.
That means
I
the
have
meaning of
doubt.
hybridization. Hybridization is actually the cross of two genetically different individuals. Genetically different means they have different characteristics. Okay. If cross occurs, sexual mating occurs between these two individuals, that is the process of hybridization. And they produce the hybrid. The species produced by this is known as the hybrid. Example I have already cited, the mule is the example of hybrid. It's produced
Thank
from
you,
horse
sir.
and donkey.
I have.
Okay.
Sir,
Okay,
in
sir.
biological systematic, sir, I
Yes.
have doubt. Sir, in biological systematic, if we have to
Yes.
describe the characteristic of a class, then we have to write the examples in scientific name or in normal name.
Scientific name.
Sir, and normal name we have to mention in a bracket or not?
Normal name is not there, it is common name.
Yes, sir, that common name we have to mention it in a bracket or not?
Either common name in bracket scientific name or scientific name in bracket common name.
Sir, we have to write both the names.
Both the names is good.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Yes, sir. I have.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good night to all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hey friends, anyone has the idea when our practicals will be scheduled?